r/Nosleep, posted by Reddit user likeeyedid. There is a town named Ferewey that grants the most wicked wishes. Like many children, I used to think that my father was by far the best. Of course, that was a long time ago, but back then he showed me nothing but compassion and kindness. While Dad could act serious at times, he always made sure that I knew how much he loved and supported me, no matter who I was or wanted to be. He bought me art supplies when I wanted to become an artist, and helped me learn the guitar when all I could talk about was being a musician. My mom usually shook her head when I told her about one of my newest dreams. I couldn't blame her. I changed life goals more often than my underwear. But Dad was patient, possibly because he was a bit of a dreamer himself. When I was 12, he took me to my very first concert. It was some pop rock band that I adored back then. Of course, Mom didn't allow me to go, so Dad promised he'd take me, and endured through the whole evening, even though I knew he hated the music. However, that day marked the last nice memory I would have of my father. Shortly after that day, he and my mother divorced and he moved to the opposite side of the country. Their relationship was never the strongest, and I think most of the reason they stayed together at all for that long was me. While it hurt me, as nothing had ever before in my young life, I finally started to accept that this is how things had to go. And Dad promised I could see him whenever I wanted to. That turned out to be a massive lie. The only contact I had with him was the occasional postcard or birthday present that he would send. I can count the times he called me during these years all on one hand, and I was never allowed to visit him. I always thought there was some bad blood between my parents and reflected it on me, or that he found a new life of his own and realized that I didn't fit into that. My mother never explained it to me either. All she said was that I didn't need him. When I was 16, my mother married again, and she finally seemed content, for which I'm really thankful for. As for me, it took me a big portion of my life to accept that Dad simply wasn't a part of my life anymore, but eventually, I found my peace. I had graduated from college recently, and was going through the job application process while working a part-time job to pay for rent and stuff. I was doing alright. That is until the other day, when I received a phone call that brought back all the pain and suffering and multiplied it by 1,000. It was my father's phone number. Last time we talked was my 18th birthday, but I still recognize the number, even though I could never bring myself to save it. I had stared at it often enough. Hello? Am I talking to Luis? I heard a man say on the other side of the line. It wasn't my father's voice. Yes, who is this? I asked. I'm William. Living with your father. We were both not saying anything for a while. The man seemed nervous and my heart started racing, expecting the worst news. The man sighed loudly after a while, and then he continued. Your father doesn't know that I'm contacting you, but he talks about you all the time. I know that he loves you very much. Right, I thought, feeling the anger and frustration building up inside of me. What do you want? I exclaimed. I know your dad never wanted you to visit, and there are reasons for that, but none of them have anything to do with him not wanting you here. He was quiet again, as if he was very carefully picking his words. The thing is that he isn't doing well. He is very sick, Luis. I know this must be very hard for you, but I wish you would come and visit. Oh, I'm sorry. I know he says he doesn't want you here, but it's not true. He needs to see you before. Okay. That was all I was able to respond. I don't know why. I didn't even think about it, but somehow I felt the urge to go there right away. And besides, even if my father had treated me like shit, this sounded serious. I had to see him. William let out another sigh. Thank you, Luis. I will send you the address, and if you need any money for transportation, I can send it to you. No, that's all right. I'll drive down with my car. I actually don't live that far anymore, I said. Okay, great. Just, one more thing. When you drive down here, do not speak to anyone on your way. Not until you've made it to our house. I know this sounds weird, but please, just come straight to us. Ferewey. I passed the sign of the town after a few hours driving through nothingness. I expected some boring old village, if I'm honest, but this place was so much more. It was beautiful. I passed what I imagined was the town center, with a big wishing well in the middle of the vivid marketplace. There must have been a market going on as I saw people packed up colorful goods and food. As I drove, I saw a park full of families with young children and dogs running around fetching balls. The happiness on their faces made me feel miserable. Pulling into the street where my father lived only enhanced that feeling. I always imagined him living alone in some rundown apartment. Picturing him in that way made it easier for me to understand why he wouldn't want to invite me. But this street was the picture-perfect example of love and safety. People standing in their beautiful front yards, watering their flowers and waving at me with big smiles. The houses all looked like someone had copy and pasted them around town, only changing up the colors. Pretty little family homes with a small, personalized spark. I parked in front of the pastel yellow house with purple window frames. As I got out of the car, I noticed the guy sitting on the porch of the house next to Dad's. The same building, in pink with green window frames. This guy stood out compared to anyone else I'd seen here so far. He was dressed entirely in black and had a look on his face that didn't match the overall vibe. Instead, it matched my feelings of misery. Wow, someone is actually visiting Ferewey? He shouted from the porch. I got my bag out of the trunk and slammed the door shut. Is that odd? This place looks like something from a movie. I'd assumed there would be tons of tourists, I responded. Sometimes there are. They never leave again, though, he said, and took another puff from his cigarette. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I wish I lived here, I mumbled to myself. What are you doing? A man, probably in his 60s, opened the door, a look of fear and despair drawn to his face. Luis, you are here. Sweetie, I asked you not to talk to anybody, he said in a desperate tone. And you should know better, Dustin. What are you trying to do? He shot at the guy next door. Come in, please. Here, let me take that bag. Slightly overwhelmed, I followed who I assumed was William into the house. We sat opposite each other at the kitchen table. He made us coffee but didn't drink any. He was already shaking pretty nervously. Where's my dad? I finally asked. I had been pretty anxious about seeing him again, especially as I imagined that William invited me without his knowledge. Does he know I'm here? I added. William nodded. I told him, you should probably know that he's not very responsive at the moment. He sleeps a lot, but we will try to go upstairs later on. I'm sure he'll be happy to see you. Right. My eyes moved through the room. There was a wall full of photos. I got up from my chair and walked towards it. There were photos of me and my dad when I was little. Me as a baby. Me at my high school graduation. Me accepting my college diploma. So, my mom had been in contact with him. But that wasn't all. There were also many photos of my dad and William, one in which they were still pretty young, sitting in the football stadium of our hometown, one of them at a beach. All other photos, however, looked like they were taken in this particular house or garden. "You're not just a housemaid, are you?" I asked, although the answer was already clear to me. I guess that's why Mom didn't like talking about the divorce. Dad had left her for someone else. William nodded. "I'm sorry, Luis. I always wished." He stopped speaking. Is that why he broke off contact with me? Did he think I wouldn't approve or something? My eyes started tearing up. At first, we were a little afraid. But your dad knew you, and he knew you'd be accepting of him. The reason he stopped talking to you was to keep you safe. There's something you need to know about Ferewey. He pointed at the black table where we were sitting. I need you to listen and not say anything for a while. What I'm about to say might be ridiculous to you, but you need to trust me. Can you do that? He asked. I nodded. He took a deep breath. Your father and I came to Ferewey shortly after your parents divorced. We were going to the sea to clear our heads, and on our way back we stumbled upon this town. We immediately fell in love with the atmosphere, the people, the food. You probably already noticed it, but Ferewey isn't exactly normal. Everything here seems perfect. Almost everyone who lives here is happy, healthy, and wealthy. They are living the best lives they could wish for. When your father imagined the beauty of a prospective life here, he was quite open about his wishes for the future. He wanted to stay, and so it didn't take long for us to find a house for sale. I was even dumber. As soon as we passed the threshold, I jokingly said that I never wanted to leave this home again. His mouth formed a crooked smile. And well, you see, this is the part that will be harder to understand. Whenever you wish for something in Ferewey, you receive it, no matter the consequences. A town committee came and warned us, but it was already too late, and frankly, we didn't believe them. Until I tried to go outside for groceries. I rolled my eyes. I had no idea what I expected coming here, and William was starting to creep me out. I'm so sorry you didn't enjoy your perfect life, I sarcastically said. He held his fingers to his mouth. Please, Luis, he continued. We don't know exactly what it is, but the spirits of this town give the people anything they want, and almost anyone who comes here never wants to leave again. I mean, why would they? That's how they trick them. The first wishes are usually humble, simple, but as soon as they get more complicated or when people slip up, they regret ever stepping foot in this hell. These hidden creatures or spirits or whatever, they feed upon the agony and the pain, as well on the happiness. They don't care or differentiate. William got up to get a piece of paper from one of his shelves. The people are careful, but everyone slips up from time to time. The young gentleman you met outside, he lost his mother to an awful wish. Her blood marked our street, and he made everyone remember for a moment that not everything here is perfect. Children make the most mistakes, of course. Some parents wish on the day that they are born that they will lose their ability to speak. Partners wish for their significant other to disappear in the heat of a fight. Life here isn't perfect. We are always one step away from excruciating pain. That's why your father tried to distance himself from you, to assure that you would never get into danger here. For a while, he was scared to speak at all. I tried to say something, but William cut me off again. I know, I'm going against the wishes by inviting you. And trust me, I never would have taken a risk if it wasn't for the state that he's currently in. I would love if all these things can be used by them to bring something upon you that you will deeply regret. So do me a favor, and please pick your words extremely carefully. I couldn't help but laugh. Not only was this whole situation completely absurd, but William also seemed to be real manic. So, if my dad wishes for something terrible, you can't just wish for it to be over? I mocked him. It doesn't work that way. I didn't just invite you here so you could see your father. I'm hoping you might be able to save him. He passed over a piece of paper. This is what he wrote in his diary before he started getting sick. I ripped it out. The entry was dated a day after my college graduation, and my father explains how terrible he is feeling for not being there for me, for abandoning me, and how he tried to live with this for so many years. Then he wrote this. How can I ever accept it? I don't deserve peace. My daughter will never forgive me, and I would much rather die a slow, painful death than living a life with these thoughts that are eating me up alive. I looked back at William, whose eyes were now filling up with tears. I felt a lump forming in my throat. Can I please see him now? I asked. He looked nothing like the man I remembered. The few hairs he had left turned gray. He was skinny to the bone, and every breath he took sounded like pure agony. Dad? I pushed out. William put a hand on my shoulder. He's still sleeping. He sleeps most of the time, he whispered. But maybe, if you stayed for a while, you could help him. Maybe you can change his wish. I took a step away from the room. I felt sick. Everything around me was turning. I could hardly breathe anymore. This was completely insane. And this weird old man was not going to sell his senseless ideas to me. My father abandoned me to live a perfect life in a town far away from me. Still, seeing him sick was hurting me in a way I could never imagine. But saying that this happened because of some fucking wish was simply malicious. I ran down the stairs to get outside. I heard William's footsteps close behind mine, begging and shouting something, but when I reached my car, his voice had turned quieter. He wouldn't come closer than the front door. That was fine with me. I couldn't take another look at this shitty yellow house, so I jumped in my car and started driving. My vision was getting blurry from the tears, but I didn't care. I kept pushing on the gas pedal, getting faster and faster, until I reached the outer edges of the town and saw "Leaving Ferewey" sign. That's when I crashed. My car made an abrupt stop, giving me whiplash. The seatbelt was pressing into my skin and my nose started bleeding. Slowly, I removed the seatbelt and tried to open the door. I wondered if I had hit a deer or something. My legs were shaking as I carefully got out of the car. My head was hurting like hell, but it got even worse. There was nothing in front of me. Nothing but an empty street. No matter how hard I tried, I simply couldn't move past the Ferewey sign.